Okay, part 4. I had to think for a second which part it was. This might not even have 7 parts, you guys. I'm already almost halfway through this book. Summoning Winter. Several questions later, Ferdinand gathered the knights of squads 9 and 10, then informed them of our idea. You plan to freeze the ship? Hyacinth exclaimed. Does this mean you can wield Schneehost, the god of ice's power, even during this warm weather infused with Lutrane's might? I shall perform a ritual to make it winter around the ship. Excuse me? That's exactly what I said. The very idea makes you think, what the heck is this guy on about, right? He's the abnormal one, not me. Well, you both are abnormal, girl. You both come up with weird ideas. Ferdinand didn't waste another moment on Hyacinth with the very confused members of squads 9 and 10. Instead, he turned to my knights and instructed them to wield Abigail's sword. Cornelius, Matthias, Lenore, and Angelica all stared at him in shock before exchanging looks. Lord Ferdinand, we cannot all perform the ceremony, Cornelius said. Using the sword drains one of one's mana, and we cannot leave Lady Rosamund without her guard knights. Lenore nodded in agreement, eager to decline with such a nonsense suggestion. Our high beast would surely vanish in the process, and without anyone to retrieve us, we would drop straight into the ocean. There's no guarantee that a single knight's mana would allow us to freeze the vessel, Ferdinand shot back. The more people we have wielding Abigail's sword, the better. Especially if they have an abundance of mana. It is said it is true that Rosamund needs more guard knights. Matthias looked toward the port. Lorenz can also use Abigail's sword. Might I suggest entrusting the magic tools to someone else so that we can bring him here? An excellent idea, Ferdinand replied with a nod. He then gazed landward, fixing his eyes not on the outer wall, but on the castle beyond it. Rosamund, if your guard knights were able to obtain Abigail's sword by offering mine at the temple, can the same be said for Hartmut? Of course, he and Cornelius competed to see who could make it first. But wait, you weren't suggesting we include him, are you? Oh my god! Hold on, how many did he ask? Dang it, go away. Go away, stupid thing. Goddamn. Cornelius, Matthias, Lenore, and Angelica, that's 4. Then Lorenz, that's 5. And Hartmut, which is 6. Can't they just use 3 and have the other 3 ready to catch them when they fall? Hartmut is a scholar, able to use Abigail's sword. If you wish to keep some of your guard knights, who better to ask? Ferdinand gave me an ordnance face stone, a very wry smile on his face, and said, summon him. He will arrive in mere moments. Yes, he would. I nodded and created the bird. Hartmut, we are about to perform a large-scale ritual so that we can use Abigail's sword. We need your support as our high priest. I must ask that you put on face stone armor and make your way here at once. Ferdinand took my hand and added to the message. I would recommend asking Clarissa to manage the magic tools and rejuvenation potions atop the outer wall. You may bring the Arensbach nobles along so that they might witness a true ritual. Hurry. Hartmut's response came almost immediately. I understood, Lady Rosamund. I shall carry out your will at once. Hop to it, everyone, Clarissa announced in the background. This is a fantastic opportunity to burn the resplendent form of Lady Rosamund into your eyes and see within her the image of a goddess. Why are y'all doing this? What the fuck have y'all been telling them? They both sounded fairly lively. Clarissa hadn't been allowed to visit the temple, meaning she couldn't make the divine instruments. I'm sure if she could, she would. There hadn't been anything we could do about that, but it had still frustrated her, so I was glad to know she finally had a role to play. If only that role wasn't brainwashing nobles. Even now, I couldn't help finding Hartmut and Clarissa's enthusiasm somewhat repulsive. As I chewed on that thought, Ferdinand sent an ordinance to Lorenz. Lorenz, we are calling on Rosamund's guards to wield Abigail's sword. Choose 4 apprentice knights to join you. They will need to retrieve you and provide rejuvenation potions once you have expanded your mana. Clarissa has agreed to manage the magic tools in your place. I shall speed through the selection process, and if permitted, I unite with you once Clarissa has taken over my role, Lorenz replied. I could tell there was some burning question on the tip of his tongue, but the most I could do was silently cheer him on. Cornelius, I will entrust you to choose which of Rosamund's guard knights will participate in the ritual, Ferdinand said. 2 of you will need to sit on your hands. Given the qualities of Abigail's sword, I would recommend excluding women. Understood. Yeah. Angelica, Lenore, As my knights spoke among themselves, Hyacinth looked around in shock, still not convinced. He wasn't the only one. The Dunkelberger knights were collectively stunned. At last, Heischitz erupted. How can you all from Ehrenfest remain so at ease? Am I the only one who heard Lord Ferdinand say that he plans to summon winter? In this heat? He directed these questions at Angelica, of all people, since she was just observing the conversation from a distance. She blinked in surprise and placed a hand on her cheek and gave him a wistful smile. We don't need to understand the arduous duties thrust upon us. Instead, we need only figure out how to accomplish them. Right now, we are expected to either swing Abiglev's sword or guard Lady Rosamine. The summoning of winter is not my concern. I see. Regemination allows you to stay calm. Angelica's attitude pretty much boils down to, I don't like thinking about complicated things, and would rather just focus on what I do best. But now she sure makes it seem profound. Moved and inspired, Heischitz promptly shouted, Lord Ferdinand, assign us jobs too. Of course, Ferdinand paid the plea no mind. He sent an ordinance to the knights from before, asking how much longer it would take him to rescue those previously thrown into the sea. Lord Ferdinand, this is straw, came the response. We have finished rescuing the kidnapped women and are now searching for any remaining face stones and magic tools. We would like to retrieve as many of our late comrades' face stones as we can. I see. We are about to summon winter to freeze the other vessel, which will cause the temperature of the surrounding ocean to fall. Be careful. Yeah, what the fuck? The knights replied only with a grunt of surprise. Ferdinand must have interpreted it as a gesture of acknowledgement as he chose not to elaborate. I couldn't help feeling bad for the straw guy. Ferdinand, who was that, I asked. He was Ahrensbach's knight commander before Detlinde relieved him of duty. Now he is my guard knight. Ferdinand then sent an ordinance asking to speak with the Dunkelfelder knights who had infiltrated the ship and conquered it from within. It returned with a few words of acknowledgement before he sent it along to Heinelor's squadron, requesting an update on their situation. The little bird sure was busy today. As it turned out, Heinelor's group had more or less finished conquering their ship as well. The kidnapped women were being led outside, and an inquiry into the damages was underway. Rosamund, stretch your arms out in front of you, place them on the head of my high beast, and then lean forward, Ferdinand said. What is this all of a sudden? I was confused, but I did as instructed nonetheless. Ferdinand told me to stay still and placed a heavy board of some kind on my back. Excuse me! He hadn't been carrying it before, so he must have transformed to face stone. Staying like this is actually really tough, I groaned. What exactly are you doing? You need only wait for me to finish drawing the magic circle. No way! I'm being used as a desk? Yes! You probably would have used your head if you had still been short. As unfortunate as it was, there wasn't much I could do but wait for Ferdinand to finish drawing on the sheet of paper I'd given him. Ferdinand, my arms are starting to waver. Already? You really should exercise more. I've kind of been busy! Trying not to think about my trembling arms, I decided to strike up a conversation. The sturdiness of man-made metal depends on the mana capacity of whoever created it, right? Well, the metals that commoners use tend to become brittle when exposed to extreme cold. Do you think Lanzanel's manaless metal might become more susceptible to physical attacks once the ship is frozen? Oh? We could easily instruct the Dunkelfelder knights to attack Furnace and continuing to draw all the while, but what approach would work best? Metal tends to contract when exposed to a rapid drop in temperature. If we could jam spears or swords into the gaps between the black and silver tiles, I assume we'd manage to pry them off. And once a few of the tiles were gone, removing the rest would be easy. These attack ports are the only thing stopping us from landing on the deck and forcing our way into the vessel. Ferdinand said, imagine how much easier this operation will be once they are gone. We have plenty of knights renowned for their strength here with us, but if we're going to bring about winter, then smashing the metal sounds best. Our overall aim is to remove the silver so that you can use the Oz protection again. Creating a hole large enough for a single person should allow Dunkelfelder knights to infiltrate with magic tools and start rescuing the hostages. We had the flashbangs, the noisemakers, and those tear gas grenades that Hartman had provided. With so many options available to us, conquering the ship would be easy once the hostages had the Oz protection. Again, we consulted Heinelor's squadron and the knights who had infiltrated the other ship. This time we learned that the prisoners were being kept in rooms that resisted mana. Heischitz, once the ship is frozen, gather your best knights and rain spears on the areas away from those rooms. You may count on us. By the time Ferdinand was done with the magic circle, we had reunited with Hartman, Lorenz, and the Retrieval squadron. The flurry of ordnance relaying the instructions and delivering fresh intelligence must have drawn the attention of Ahrensbach's nobles, so I could see various high beasts around the outer wall. Even the commoners had thrown up their windows to watch. Still, waiting high above the ship, I gazed around across my guard knights and the apprentices with them. It had been decided that Cornelius, Matthias, Lorenz, and Hartman would swing Abiglev's sword. I hope somebody can catch them! Woo woo, it's gonna be good! Rosamund, begin, Ferdinand said, just as the sun picked up over the horizon. The sky brightened all at once and the crashing waves began to sparkle. Using the face stones he handed me, I traced the design on the face paper, slowly filling it with mana. The first 3 face stones ran out, then the 4th. I was starting to worry that we wouldn't have enough, but the magic circle activated right as I placed the 5th stone down. The face paper floated into the air, then caught fire and shot up toward the sky. Its magic circle turned red, then a beam of the same radiant hue descended on the ship. It was large enough to completely envelop it. Just as the surrounding knights let out cries of awe, the red magic circle began changing color. Piercing white light replaced the red, consuming it from the top down. Winter has come. Do it. Okay. Ferdinand flew his high beast into the column of white. The drop in temperature was immediately noticeable, but my retainers were unfazed thanks to their face-stone armor. I drew their respective swords of Everglade with nary a pause. The white blades were enveloped in chilly ice. The moment they were drawn, my retainers channeled more and more mana into them, causing the swirling snow to thicken into a blizzard. O God of life, Everglade, ruler of restoration and death. O 12 gods who served by his side, the 4 chanted. As the harsh winds raged, I shivered and rubbed my arms. Ferdinand must have noticed as he removed his cape and wrapped it around me. It was nice to have some protection from the ice slurry sweeping through the sky. I thank you ever so much, I said. There's no need for that. It is my fault you do not have warm clothes to begin with. An attendant would have prepared some for you without the slightest hesitation. I should have brought justice. Kind of a little too late for that one. I gazed down at the cloak wrapped around me. As glad as I was to see Ferdinand reflecting on his mistake, was this really the time? The magic circles on his cape had started shining the instant it touched me, which must have been making us stand out. Maybe it isn't too noticeable now that the sun's out, or maybe we're just too far away? I wasn't about to return the cape when it was so bitterly cold, but the thought that people were staring at me was a little embarrassing. I give to thee mine unwavering faith, my 4 retainers continued. Let my foremost ideals be met with praise and granted you your protection. Grant me thy divine power so that no enemies might approach. Their chant finished, my retainers swung their swords down on the ship. The ice and snow twisted and transformed into the Lord of Winter's spawn, which then descended on the ship. At a guess, there had to be at least 70 of them. Everglade's swords then disappeared, having merely been transformed staffs, and the 4 who had wielded them all slumped over. The apprentices riding with them sprang into action, flying their charges out of the white pillar to give them rejuvenation potions. I enhanced my vision and watched as the ice spawn gnawed on the ship below. Crystals of snow formed over the opening of the volley weapon, turning them from silver to white. My 4 retainers must have had an overwhelming amount of mana, for in mere moments the entire vessel was buried in ice and snow. Even the water within the pillar froze over. Rosamund, how many winter subordinates remain? Ferdinand asked. 3 more from what I could tell. They were fading away one by one. Heischitz, go! Descend! Heischitz shouted in response. At once 4 Dunkelfelder knights flew into the pillar, formed their staffs, and simultaneously shouted, Lawns! Crackling spears appeared in their hands. Are those Leidenschaft spears, Ferdinand? Do you remember when Amp Dunkelfelder presented his temple's spear during my 3rd year inter-duchy tournament? Well, since then, the Duchy's knights have been using Leidenschaft's spear in their pre-dinner rituals. Your information network really suffered as a result of Ahrensbach not participating in the Royal Academy ceremonies, huh? Yes, that is becoming all too clear to me. The blue capes rushed down the frozen ship, their crackling spears in hand. Ha! With an intense roar, Heischitz threw his spear alongside his 4 knights. The silver plating might have been immune to mana, but it didn't stand a chance against Leidenschaft's heat. The ice surrounding the ship was blown away, as was a portion of the silver tiles. One of the thrown spears had managed to slot into an opening made by the contracting metal. Blue mana spread out like a web, causing more and more tiles to come away, and it was then that Ferdinand gave the order. Rosemine, the Oz protection, now! I channeled mana... What? Did I just hear? Whatever. I channeled mana into my staff, then swung it and chanted, Vokoisen! Vokoisen! A yellow bird flew into the ship to protect Ahrensbach's citizens. Eckert, make an opening in the bow, Ferdinand said. He had started constructing the others without even waiting for me to finish. Yes, my lord. Squads 9 and 10, prepare to infiltrate. Understood. Eckert morphed his staff into a sword and started filling it with mana as he headed toward the ship. He was moving so fast that one might have thought he was chasing after the bird. The ship was no longer a threat now that its silver tiles had been removed. Eckert's rainbow blade slashed into it and made a gaping hole for the Dunkelfelder knights to fly through. I drew a magic circle with my stylo as instructed, then Ferdinand tossed 3 face stones into it. The columns of white disappeared, marking the end of winter. It was fairly surreal to see the frozen ship floating on ice amid what was essentially summer heat and a dazzling sun. Ferdinand, they rescued Lady Letizia, I said, when I saw the golden-haired little girl being brought out of the ship. She had grown a little, but looked mostly the same, so I recognized her instantly. Ferdinand exhaled while putting on the cape. I didn't return to him. Rosamund, how do you wish to treat her? What? Will she be treated as family to the traitors, an attempted murderer, or the victim of a conniving scheme? I assumed the victim of a conniving scheme, because she had no idea. She had no idea if any of this was going to happen. So I'd say she's a victim. Your decision will dictate whether we capture her here as a criminal or treat her as another victim, though in either case she will need to be kept under surveillance. I turned from Letizia, who was now on the deck, to Ferdinand. I should treat her with forgiveness and generosity. You know she didn't have any ill intentions, didn't she? Or didn't you? I doubt you would have entrusted her with your retainer's namestones otherwise. Very well, we can always charge her for her crimes if we need to. But for now, let us treat her as a victim. Choices! Letizia was standing on the ship with 4 women who appeared to be her retainers. Ferdinand brought his high beast down beside them. Lady Letizia, I'm glad to see you well, I said. You aren't hurt, are you? I dismounted the lion and went to approach her, but Angelica and Lenore, who had also descended to serve as my knights, held up their hands to stop me. Evidently, I wasn't allowed any closer. Is that you, Lady Rosamund? Letizia asked, blinking. She hadn't recognized me at first because of my sudden growth spurt. Dunkelfelger's knights informed me of your rescue operation. They said you stole Ahrensbach's foundation to save Lord Ferdinand and smote Lanzanov. I do not even know where to begin. It is all my... Lady Letizia, Ferdinand interjected. The girl stared up at him in utter shock. Her expression betrayed her relief, and the tension started draining from her body. So you are safe, Lord Ferdinand. When Lady Detlinda told me you had died, I was so... I am only here now because you were able to reach Eckert in justice, Ferdinand said. He was wearing a smile, but the intensity in his eyes made it clear that he was telling her to shut up. Letizia must have noticed, so she immediately fell silent. Rosamund, who is now Ob Ahrensbach, knows everything about the incident, Ferdinand continued. Nonetheless, she made the decision to rescue you. Letizia's surprise was once again directed at me. Her retainers wore the same look of astonishment. They must not have expected me to help the person who struck the first blow against Ferdinand, or maybe they were just surprised that someone who had stolen a foundation was now showing compassion to a member of the previous archducal family. But, Lord Ferdinand, I... Say nothing of the matter until you are somewhere private, Ferdinand replied. In fact, act as though nothing happened at all. Can I assume you will obey me this time? Letizia looked up at him, her face pale. Then she brought a trembling hand to her chest, squeezed it into a tight fist, and nodded. I will. From the bottom of my heart, I am grateful for you and Lady Rosamund's consideration. We intend to close the gates so that no more Lanzanov ships enter, Ferdinand continued. Lady Letizia, return to the castle under guard and instruct your attendants to prepare somewhere in the grand hall for Dunkelberger's knights to rest. Ferdinand, we just rescued Lady Letizia from imprisonment, I said, unable to believe he was ordering her around already. She needs to rest before you... She has spent her time sitting still inside a ship. Should she not have bit more stamina than someone who was poisoned and a young woman who recently died of Foundation and expelled the Lanzanovian invaders? You may be right in that regard, but please consider the emotional side of things. Ferdinand sneered at the very idea. Then, looking down at Letizia, he explained her situation. To restore some order in Ahrensbach's disarrayed nobles, she needed to announce to her in her capacity as an archducal family member that she had been rescued by Dunkelfelger and me, and that the danger of Lanzanov had passed. The nobles are far more likely to believe her than they are any of us. Seeing a young woman like Letizia working hard despite the great mental strain she was under would also do wonders to earn her the people's sympathy. For the sake of her future, she would need as much support as she could get. At the same time, it would give Ahrensbach nobles hope. If Letizia had been spared, perhaps they would be too. The adults would surely be motivated to work just as hard. Furthermore, Ferdinand continued, unless one is particularly empty-headed and over-optimistic, doing nothing in an emergency situation should prove far more stressful than leaping into action to support those who need it. As if on cue, Letizia stepped forward and knelt before me. Lady Rosamund, it is as Lord Ferdinand says. I would much rather provide my assistance. I cannot bear the thought of doing nothing. I see. In that case, please prepare somewhere for everyone to rest. At once. Roswitha... Oh, yeah, she died! God damn it! Upon returning to her feet, Letizia had moved to address someone, only to pause mid-turn with the vacant look on her face. Another young woman, an apprentice I assumed, since she wasn't wearing her hair up, stepped forward and placed a hand on her charge's shoulder. I will summon the attendants, Lady Letizia. Fair, Sia. The brief exchange and the pain in their eyes were enough for me to guess what was wrong. Something had happened to one of Letizia's attendants, a woman by the name of Roswitha. Lenore, instruct the Dunkelfelger Knights to take Lady Letizia and her retinue to the castle, I said. They are to ensure she has arrived there safely. Lenore nodded and went to carry out my order with great haste. Meanwhile, the girl named Pharisee turned to Ferdinand. Lord Ferdinand, may I ask one question? You may. Did my father protect Arensbach's nobles, she asked, her hands clasped and trembling. I reflexively looked up at Ferdinand. Pharisee's concern about her father mirrored my own worries about Dad trying to protect Ehrenfest. Based on the reports I received, short though they might have been, it seems fair to say that Straw minimized casualties as much as anyone could have, Ferdinand replied. He is currently rescuing others by the border gate. Tears welled up in Pharisee's eyes as she said, thank you. She took a moment to kneel, then returned to Letizia and the others who were about to leave with a group of Dunkelfelger Knights. As I watched them go, Ferdinand went straight over to the knights tasked with retrieving face stones and magic tools from the ship. Heifetz, have the knights removed the Lanzanavian soldiers' silver clothes, he said. They will prove most useful for the upcoming battle in Ehrenfest and the sovereignty. Yes, sir. Eckert, work with them. Do not forget to retrieve the face stones. Ferdinand then gave Eckert a sound blocker and said something I naturally couldn't hear. It may have best have been an order, considering that Eckert responded with a serious nod. Once he had given out his instructions and concluded an ordonnance conversation with the knights working by the border gate, Ferdinand formed his high beast and summoned me. Rosamund, we will start by closing the country gate. But I won't be... Justice informed me that you used the gate to get here. You were the only one who can close it. I see. Ferdinand doesn't want anyone else to know about his Book of Messinora. Roger. Indeed, I would need to be there so that Ferdinand could discreetly close the country gate. I climbed onto his high beast and we started making our way there. In the ocean below, only a portion of the sky blasted apart by Leidenschaft's spear was still covered in frost, and the thick ice that had surrounded it was now just a bunch of shattered clumps. Arensbach's warmth was working fast. There are soldiers swimming toward the country gate, I observed. Leave them be, Ferdinand replied. Those without the mana to teleport on their own rely on registration face stones to activate the circle. They will end up trapped in their silver clothes or forever trek the white desert on the other side of the gate. I hadn't seen past the gate when we arrived in Arensbach. It had been the dead of night, and we rushed straight toward the city. Now that I was here during the daytime, however, I could see a white desert just like the one by Ehrenfest. The ocean abruptly stopped at the teleportation circle, and everything beyond it was sand. It was like staring at a Trompe-l'oeil painting or some kind of optical illusion. Rosamund, did you not close the gate behind you? I mean, we really didn't have time. The roof of the country gate was still open wide enough for Leslie to fly through. In my defense, I'd arrived racked with tension and fearing an attack from Arensbach's knights. Closing the gate hadn't even crossed my mind. Saves me the trouble of opening it, I suppose. Rosamund, raise your right hand and open your Bible so that everyone can see we are about to enter. Right. Ferdinand put his right arm around my waist. Anyone watching us would assume he was just trying to keep me from falling. Gruterscheid, I shouted. Ferdinand said the chant with me, speaking in barely a whisper. His Gruterscheid appeared in my lap where nobody else would be able to see. Wow, his Book of Messinora is pretty thick. I wonder if I'm able to read it. Good question! You need to read it and get all that information, girl! As everyone stared at my Gruterscheid, which I was holding as high as I could, Ferdinand plunged into the country gate. Only those who had the Book of Messinora could enter from above, so Lenore was blocked when she tried to follow us. Lady Rosamund, Lord Ferdinand, please come back out, she cried. Ferdinand dispelled his Gruterscheid and high beast. Rosamund, shut the roof. I will not be able to close the gate with an audience. I gazed up at Lenore and Angelica as they flew around and pressed my Book of Messinora against the gate. Allow me to use this opportunity to ask. Rosamund, what would you like to do next? Well, I wouldn't mind returning to Ehrenfest and getting some rest. I mean, after that, he said, looking up at the closing roof. In a single night, you have dyed Arensbach's foundation and purged the Lanzanov threat. You have also used the country's border gate, which proves you are qualified to become the Zent. Those things have given you options. As I wavered, Ferdinand started to count them on his fingers. 1, I couldn't give Arensbach's foundation to someone else, and as planned, endure a miserable life married into the royal family. She could do that. 2, I could give Arensbach's foundation to someone else, then rule Jürgenschmidt as the Zent after my adoption. 3, I could give the magic tool Gruterscheid to the royal family, and then spend my life here as Ob Arensbach. She could do that, yes. 4, I could give the magic tool Gruterscheid to the royal family and Arensbach's foundation to someone else, then return to Ehrenfest for the rest of my days. There is more nuance than that, but of course, those are your choices. I must ask that you make your decision before I finish closing the gate. Our next move will depend on the path you wish to take. Ferdinand checked that the roof was fully shut, then gave me a poisonous smile. As I recall, on the day of my departure for Ahrensbach, you said you would never allow me to spend my life in misery. That's right. Then I suspect you would never choose such a nightmarish marriage, not when you have other options. He was using my own words against me, and with the most serious expression I'd ever seen. You're absolutely correct was the only response I could give, and with that, my first option was removed from the equation. Good. Now as for your second option. For you to rule Juergensmith, either I would need to die so that you could complete your Gruschenscheit, or you would need to be registered as a royal and obtain the magic tool Gruschenscheit from the underground archive. The problem, however, is that you are not at all suited to the role. Not when you would readily destroy the country for the sake of those you care about. If you choose to become the Zet nonetheless, know that I will do everything I can to stop you. To choose your second option is to choose my death. I don't want to rule Juergensmith in the first place, I shouted. The very idea was terrifying. That's a lot of pressure! You can see how it's affecting the current king. That's a lot of pressure right there. As expected. Now that Ferdinand was safe, keeping Juergensmith from collapsing had returned to my list of priorities. That didn't mean I wanted to become the Zent, though it was true that the country needed a Book of Messinora or a Gruschenscheit to survive. So you need only the third or fourth option. Ferdinand, could we not find a way for you to become the Zent? I'm not the only one with the Book of Messinora. Are you asking me to kill you? Ferdinand replied, his sharp eyes piercing through me. I don't think he would do that if he was told to. But, like I said, can't they just transcribe or take the information from the original book of the original Gruschenscheit, the magic tool one? Or at least have, Ferdinand look through your Book of Messinora and write down what's in it? Correct? And he would have the complete book without having to kill you. Right? Am I missing something here, or is that not even an option? Because didn't they say they had to transcribe... The original reason that having to go through Ewerman was kind of fading away was because everybody was transcribing from the original Gruschenscheit? You know? Hello? I frantically shook my head. Against someone like Ferdinand, I wouldn't stand a chance. He would end my life quickly and without ever opposing me directly. No, I said. I meant that instead of the royals, I could give you the Gruschenscheit after my adoption. That might be feasible, but do you want me to rule? He asked, staring at me intently. I contemplated the question. As far as I was concerned, Ferdinand would make for an excellent Zent. But then I remembered that he mentioned not wanting the role. No, I declared. I want you to retire and spend the rest of your days in Ehrenfest living in peace. How old do you think I am? Ow, that hurts! My well-meaning suggestion had earned me a fairly serious pinch on the cheek. This one actually hurt. I rubbed my face, fighting back the tears in my eyes, and decided to try again. I said to you earlier that I can't return to Ehrenfest right now, remember? That leaves only a single option. I would need to keep being Ahrensbach. To be honest, I wasn't at all pleased about the idea. Raymond, Letizia, Sergius, and many others had shown me that not everyone in Ahrensbach was horrible, but my experience with the duchy had been anything but positive. And it all started during my days as an apprentice Blue Shrine Maiden when Count Bindewald targeted me for my mana. My altercation with him had resulted in my separation from my family. Of course, the problems had only continued upon my becoming a noble. Georgina and the nobles name sworn to her had caused plenty of trouble since my adoption, and still were, for that matter. Fraulein had antagonized me to no end at the Royal Academy, and my tea parties with Detlinde had proved both frustrating and tortuous, but that's Detlinde, you're not going to have to deal with her. And then there was our current predicament. Ahrensbach had poisoned and almost killed Ferdinand, even though he'd assiduously helped them with administration work, religious ceremonies, and even mana replenishment since his engagement. I had chosen to steal Ahrensbach's foundation, so I did intend to carry out the bare minimum of the duties expected of me. On the inside, however, I wanted nothing more than to thrust the role on someone else. Now then, Ferdinand said, forming his Book of Messinora, you are free to choose any of the four paths I've mentioned, but I think we can both agree that the last two have the most appeal. I did say that Ahrensbach should be reduced to nothing. It would serve as an ideal playground for you. Playground? What do you think she is? A toddler? Playground? What the fuck? What the fuck? What the fuck is this title? What is he talking about? Ferdinand, what on earth do you mean? The frustration and nausea that had eaten away at me mere moments ago was gone, replaced entirely by confusion. For all of our problems with Ahrensbach, I'd never expected him to describe it as a playground. Ahrensbach has already committed the grave crime of treason. As the Ob, you are free to do with it as you please. You can become its savior or make supposed errors that lead to its destruction. Hold on. Wouldn't destroying an entire duchy be an absolute catastrophe? There are nobles and commoners living here. How can you say something so ridiculous? All of a sudden, I remembered the incident in Haas. Such an outlandish statement shouldn't have surprised me. Ferdinand had always been this kind of person. For the crime of attacking an Archduke, he had flatly declared that he didn't care if an entire town of commoners was eradicated. He really is willing to destroy Ahrensbach. This wasn't a cute little act meant to hide his embarrassment about letting Detlinde of all people poison him. I could sense that unless I worked seriously hard to stop him, he really would tear down this entire duchy. As I put my head in my hands, fearing a repeat of Haas's nightmare, Ferdinand gave me a look of disinterest. You told me long ago that you wanted Ahrensbach, did you not? It has an ocean, for one thing. I recall your envy that the people here could eat fish whenever they wanted. The duchy also hosts several scholars who are trying to derive spices from local plants to minimize trade with Londonov. Driven by their frustration about the envoy's recent arrogance, supporting their research would almost certainly bear fruit. What the heck? Ahrensbach sounds so tasty! I clapped a hand over my mouth, trying not to drool at the thought of a seafood paradise. The nightmare hellscape that was Ahrensbach suddenly seemed a lot more appealing. Furthermore, Ferdinand continued, now that you have died Ahrensbach's foundation, the duchy's land is yours. You can use an Entwicklung to create whatever you want. Even that library city you proposed during one of our lessons. What? A library city? Can I actually make one? Back when I mentioned the idea to Ferdinand, he'd given me a look of complete exhaustion, and when I proposed it during one of my Royal Academy classes, Eglantine had merely humored me as one would a child. Was making a library city actually feasible? If so, it didn't feel right that Ferdinand was encouraging it. Your original plan was to construct it in Ehrenfest, which would not have been possible for the reasons I explained. Ahrensbach, on the other hand, already needs to be reconstructed so that they can produce new exports and establish new industries. My heart had already been racing at the thought of delicious fish and spices, and now I was getting a library city to boot. The way Ferdinand described it, that whole thing about the duchy needing to be restructured, made it all seem easily within my reach. Ahrensbach now felt like a wonderful land of dreams and whimsy. Ferdinand continued, you also mentioned establishing temple schools or something of the sort to raise the literacy rate among commoners. That much should easily be achievable. He would not need anyone's permission, nor would the Zet be able to interfere. He does not have a say in how duchies are managed. You might even be able to force it through now, considering how much reconstruction is going to be necessary in this time of chaos. Temple schools, huh? That was a dream of mine at once, improving the literacy rate, thereby increasing the number of authors. Yes! I was genuinely impressed that Ferdinand seemed to remember the details of every idea I'd thrown at him. More than that, though, I was ready to embrace my future as Ob Ahrensbach, or I would have been had a voice in my head not told me to think. Ferdinand would never be this kind. That's right, something very strange is going on here. Slapped my cheeks a few times, trying to calm down. Ferdinand paid this no mind and continued with his siren song. Those close to you have already begun preparing to move, have they not? You need only bring them here instead. And as you build institutions accessible to commoners and develop the printing industry with workers of all statuses, you will find it easier than ever to meet with the people you care about. But above all else, the magic contract you signed with your lower city family applies only to Ehrenfest. It has no power in other duchies. Which means she gets to be around her family again if she does this. Yes! Come on, Rosemont, do it! Ferdinand, does that mean... I took a cautious step back. Was he seriously telling me I could reunite with my family? If this was a cruel joke of some kind, I wasn't sure I'd managed to control my emotions. For obvious reasons, if you wish for them to live carefree lives, I would not publicly address them as your family. You could, however, meet them in secret by adding a teleportation circle to their house when you remake the city with an Entwicklung. Would it really be acceptable for me to place a teleportation circle for such a personal reason, I asked, surprised that Ferdinand was even suggesting it. There's a long history of Obs placing teleportation circles to meet with their lovers, so while it might not be commendable, the option is there for you. Oh, and it should go without saying that you will need to act in moderation for their safety's sake. Obviously. I narrowed my eyes in a sharp glare. Moderation, Does that mean I won't be able to see them without your permission? My caution was feeling more and more justified. A deep frown creased Ferdinand's brow. Is there a reason you leap to such a twisted conclusion? I was more interested to know why he'd asked such a stupid question. He'd said so many twisted things since our arrival at the gate that I would have been crazy not to assume the worst. He questioned, you would be able to spend unfettered, uninterrupted time with your family once or twice per season. Promise? And if you allowed me control of your schedule, I would be able to make time for such meetings as necessary. Even Hartman would be able to arrange one every half year or so. And that means Ferdinand would be staying there. Because he just said he wants to be able to do your schedule. By this point, I was ready to stick with my role as Ob Ehrensbach and had basically everything I wanted, but every sweet deal was sour at its core. Nice try, Ferdinand, but you can't trick me that easily. You're planning something under the guise of granting my wishes, aren't you? You would do well not to bandy about such slanderous remarks. Slanderous? I'm speaking from experience, I shot back, taking a fighting stance. Ferdinand eyed me as though I were a petulant child. Fine, he said. As you fear, I am indeed planning something. Aha! See? Now tell me what you're scheming. If you're trying to hide anything from me, I'll make you regret it. Despite his insistence on keeping others in the know, Ferdinand was always hiding things and working in the shadows, of course. Because knowing too much is not good for you either. He placed a contemplative hand on his cheek and said, well, I would appreciate a laboratory next to your library, under the same roof if possible, so I can briskly acquire whatever documents I need. Oh, like the Fey plant lab you mentioned before. I would also like to research Fey beasts and Fey fish, but yes, that is mostly correct. You would not mind giving me a small somewhere to indulge my hobbies, would you? Remember that you have an entire duchy to play with. Yes! Is this really all he wants? Is that really the whole reason he's doing this is just so he can have his own laboratory near her? Oh, boy. Come on, girl. If that's all he wants, give it to him. If that's the only reason he's doing this is so he can have that, give it to him. He's been through enough. Let him have it. So that was what Ferdinand wanted, his very own great laboratory. He really was a mad scientist. I understood where he was coming from, but his request also irritated me. You pinched me earlier for saying that you should retire and take it easy. Isn't this basically the same thing? There isn't much I can do here in Ehrensbach that I cannot back in Ehrenfest. As an extension of my lab proper, I would request some isolated areas where I could grow Fey plants, raise Fey beasts, and keep Fey fish taken from the ocean. In other words, on top of a lab connected to my library, he wants a botanical garden, a ranch, and an aquarium. The word playground was feeling more appropriate by the minute. Yeah. Ferdinand wanted me to keep being Ob Ehrensbach so that I can make him his very own research paradise. You sure are asking for a lot, I said. Indeed, that is why Sylvester refused to build me a laboratory in Ehrenfest, and why I would rather have one here. I can provide the schematics and the gold dust. The most I need from you is your permission. It's so like him to focus on his own desires at a time like this. He intends to let me wrestle with the duties of an Ob while he enjoys a breezy retirement. Considering what he's been through, I think he deserves it. It sounded like a pretty lousy arrangement, if you ask me. Ferdinand would get to hole up in his laboratory while I drowned into too much work to even be able to visit my library. Now the roles will be reversed there. No, I said, if I stay here as the Ob, you'll need to help me with my work. I won't permit you to have fun without me. Is that all? Ferdinand replied with a grin. That still sounds much easier than my current role here in Ehrensbach. Yeah, it would be. Because at least now he would have some help with the paperwork, and two, it wouldn't be near as bad, because at least Rosemine knows how to do all this stuff. She would have to get, familiar with all the Ehrensbach's internals like he did, but still, it probably wouldn't take her too long. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was on the back foot, so I scrambled to come up with extra conditions. There's more, of course. You'll need to ensure that I can visit my family once per season, develop more palatable rejuvenation potions, and compile the results of any research you perform into books from my library. Those requests will require a lot of work and take up a considerable amount of my time, but I consider them reasonable. As long as the Duchy funds the binding of the books, I shall get the scholars to use my facilities to submit their results as well. Perfect, I exclaimed. Ferdinand gave a slight smile. Now then, do you have any reasons to oppose staying here as Ob Ehrensbach, or can we proceed with that future in mind? We can proceed, I said, then punctuated my response with a silent woohoo! Very good. Woo-woo, we got a plan! Woo-woo! And you guys are neighbors with Ehrenfest. You could go over there at any point and visit anybody you care about, like Sylvester and the others. You could even go see the baby. Actually, no, she wouldn't be able to do that. Shoot. Oh, well. This actually works out a whole lot better. They don't have to go near as far. Ferdinand opened up his book of Messinora. It looked a lot like the Bible given to high bishops in the temple, which probably explained why he'd called it one when we were outside, but its function wasn't the same at all. There was no need to search through it, as the page he opened to already had the magic circle he wanted, a magic circle that was incomplete, I noticed, and therefore wouldn't activate on its own. Rosemine, this is the magic circle for closing the country gate. It is missing a fragment, as I am sure you can see. I would normally attempt to complete it on my own using the surrounding composition as a guideline, but my mana reserves are too low for me to rely on trial and error. Could you use the knowledge you received to complete the circle for me? I quickly formed my own book of Messinora and muttered under my breath as I started to search through it. Closing country gates. Magic circle. It wasn't long before I found what I was looking for. The missing fragment of the magic circle was so small that it would have been incomprehensible on its own. Ferdinand used a stylus to draw the magic circle in his own book, consulting mine as he went. Can't we just copy and paste it, I asked. Yes, that incomprehensible spell of yours. It does interest me, but let's leave it for another day. We do not have time to spare. Ferdinand completed the magic circle and then cast Ingrons, which caused the circle at his feet to sparkle. The country gate seemed to be activating. Once it was shut, we wouldn't need to worry about Lansnof's just passing through. That did not drain as much of my mana as I expected, Ferdinand said. Oh, that might be because I used the gate earlier. It drained a ton of my mana the first time I teleported, and then considerably less the second time. Ferdinand dispelled his book of Messinora, muttering that us supplying the country gates of mana would be urgent business. I put away my book at the same time. Well, Rosemine, that has solved our most pressing issue at least. To my surprise, Ferdinand reached out a hand to me. I took it, not quite sure what he wanted, only for him to lead me toward the exit. An unusual development, it seemed that he intended to escort me. Oh boy. There's something else that he probably didn't know. Maybe he doesn't know. Maybe Rosemine, obviously Rosemine doesn't know this, but I don't know if Ferdinand knows this. But there is some interesting surprises that popped up now that she is Ab Ahrensbach. And it involves him. For those of you who know what I'm talking about, oh boy, I can't wait to get to that conversation. That's going to be a shock to the both of them. Maybe. At least to Rosemine, anyway. We made our way downstairs until we were outside the gatepost, then climbed onto Ferdinand's high beast and confirmed that the country gate was shut. Before when both it and the border gate had been wide open, we'd been able to see the teleportation circle and the white desert beyond it. Now, however, an iridescent door stood in the way. Lady Rosemine, are you safe? I waved at Lenore and Angelica as they flew overhead. It's okay, we didn't see any Landanavians. Rosemine, while we're here, close the border gate as well, Ferdinand said. If we can prevent even a single person from passing through, we can consider it a worthwhile move. Got it. I formed my staff and did as instructed. Ferdinand then told us high up in the air before landing on the roof of one of the gateposts. The noble women rescued from the ocean had already been moved to the castle, and the knight's task with retrieving face stones knelt before us. Well done, everyone. You did an even finer job than I expected, Ferdinand addressed them. Assign the 3 people to stand watch out here while the rest of you break. We shall fetch the knights operating with Georgine. Sir. Once they were done, Lenore stepped forward. Lord Ferdinand, if all that remains is to return to the castle, I must ask that you let Lady Rosemine ride with me. Certainly. Our battle here is over, and whatever remains of the cleanup can be done later. The sooner she can rest, the better. Ferdinand gave me a gentle push, urging me toward my retainer. Rosemine, go to the room prepared by Letizia and stay in your high beast. That is the safest place for you right now. He was right that I needed to be careful. We didn't know how much we could trust Ahrensbach's nobles, but he was completely disregarding his own safety. If anyone needed some time to recover, surely it was the man who had very recently been poisoned. Ferdinand, what will you do while I'm resting? I asked. I should retire to my hidden room. Lenore. Rosemine is fairly exhausted from expanding too much mana. Please instruct Hartman to give her twice the usual dosage of an undiluted potion. Lenore nodded, but the blood drained from my face. Twice the usual dosage, I stammered. Your body has grown, so you will need to drink more. Is that much not obvious? You are welcome to refuse, but know that I will forbid you from joining the fight in Ehrenfest. Okay, I said, my shoulders slumped. Lady Rosemine, please remember your standing when you interact with Lord Ferdinand, Lord Ward, as we made our way to the castle. You are still publicly engaged to Lord Wilfrid. Nope. So your cavorting with another man will only arouse suspicion. You and Lord Ferdinand seem more like an intimate couple than a guardian in his charge. About that! About that! Did we? I asked, my head cocked. But we've always been this close. Nobody seems to care before. It was more acceptable when you looked so much younger. Oh, how could Lord Ferdinand commit such a tremendous faux pas? He must have known what rumors it would cause. I don't think he cared who was watching or what kind of impact it might have on my reputation. His only concern was purging the Lanzanavians as quickly and as thoroughly as we could. Lenore was indignant about the damage this would potentially cause to my honor. Oh, boo-hoo-hoo! As a knight in my service, she had every right to be annoyed, but we had acted only out of necessity. There hadn't been any other way for Ferdinand to give out instructions while keeping both his Bible and his poor health hidden from the others. Should someone who claims to be your guardian really show such open disregard for your reputation? Lenore asked, evidently furious. Truth be told, I cared a lot more about Ferdinand's health and cleaning up this mess than about the public's perception of me. I couldn't say that to Lenore, though. That would make the situation worse. I can't even pretend to know what Ferdinand was thinking, I said. We'll need to ask him later. Besides, there's an even greater problem on my mind. I paused and thought, still able to feel Lenore's outrage behind me. Had it been reckless to promise that I would continue being an Ob and give Ferdinand a laboratory here in Ahrensbach? Wouldn't this seem crazy from an outside perspective? No. Especially when Ferdinand gets so immersed in his research that he loses sight of everything else. Maybe I should consider Vince Sylvester to build him a lab in Ehrenfest instead? Nope, it ain't happening. Welcome back, Lady Rosamund. I am moved beyond words, Clarissa exclaimed the moment we arrived at the castle. Letters here have already been sent to Ob's, Ehrenfest, and Dunkelfelder. How convenient. I was just about to contact them. Thank you for saving me the time, Clarissa. And we received their responses. Ob Dunkelfelder granted us permission to lead his knights into Ehrenfest. Ob Ehrenfest said, well done. Oh, can't you use that tool to be able to contact Ehrenfest and let him know, see Ferdinand is okay? Clarissa then led us into the castle. We passed several Ahrensbach nobles as we traversed its halls, and they all shouted, Lady Rosamund, upon seeing me. Their enthusiasm spoke to Clarissa's hard work, but it was honestly kind of scary. Lady Rosamund, Letizia said when we reached our destination, we have set up a guest room for you over here. I am touched that you would go to the trouble. You must be exhausted from all that you've been through, so please get some rest when you can. She gave me a look of concern. Thank you, but I must wait for my attendants. Dunkelfelder's knights are having a feast, you see. Ah, it sounds like a most uncomfortable burden. Where might Lady Handler be? She went to return the wolfenales to their owners. So the boisterous knights are entirely unsupervised. Oh, great. I asked Letizia to guide me to the grand hall where Dunkelfelder's knights were holding their feast under the guise of a post-battle review. Even through the closed doors, I could hear them raving about the awesomeness of Leidenschaft's spears and all the ways they could use Avenglave's sword in future dinner matches. Uh-oh. I stepped into the hall and was immediately met with a sea of smiling faces. Lady Rosamund, Heischitz exclaimed. The ritual today was splendid, just absolutely. I came to thank you all for your excellent performance, but I must say I am shocked. Did Lord Ferdinand not tell you that a dinner match isn't over until one's foundation is safe? Is it customary in Dunkelfelder to drink in the middle of a game? The air froze over all at once. Several of the knights bunched together in a futile attempt to hide the barrels of beer behind them. To think you would feast instead of resting in preparation for tomorrow, I continued. I wonder whether Lord Ferdinand even bothered to take such knights to Ehrenfest. We shall clean up at once and get to bed. When are we to depart? That will depend on when I recover. Once the knights have calmed down, I said pointedly that I was looking forward to their service tomorrow and then exited the hall. Letizia and her retainers were visibly relieved. None of them had the experience necessary to wrangle Dunkelfelderians. I thank you ever so much, Lady Rosamund. There's no need for that. Not when I was the one who brought them here, I replied. Now, Lady Letizia, as much as it pains me to deprive you of your rest, could you ask the chefs to prepare food that can be eaten cold? We won't be able to cater such a large group otherwise. I suggested several recipes from among the ones I sent her before, retiring to the guest room prepared for me. I cleaned myself with a wash and drank double my usual dose of the ultra-nasty rejuvenation potion, then climbed in my pandibus to rest. Woo! Oh boy. Think one more should do it. Rumors and a departure. Where am I? It was dark. The mattress before me was too bouncy to be my usual bed, and when I groped around, I realized that I was trapped inside something. Oh wait, I'm inside Leslie. It had taken me a moment to remember my situation. I'd slept with the windows of my pandibus closed to eliminate the risk of any of my male retainers seeing me in such a state of disarray. The rejuvenation potions I'd taken before had worked like a charm. My stamina and mana had both fully recovered. I'd gone to sleep immediately after my wash, and so I was still wearing my riding clothes. I made a half-hearted attempt to put my hair up and cracked open one of the windows to see the back of Angelica's head right in front of me. Good morning, Angelica. Might I ask you to summon an attendant to prepare me for the day? At once. Angelica sent an ordonnance, then shooed my male retainers out of the room. Lenore entered shortly after with an apprentice attendant. Good morning, Lady Rosamund. How are you feeling? I seem to have fully recovered and thus feel wonderful. Thank God, I'm glad she didn't get a fever. Wait, what? 2 whole days? They were supposed to go in the morning. Lenore heaved a sigh, and a calming smile spread across her face. 2 whole days had passed since you took the potion. Your lack of response had us worried. Excuse me? I'd used up so much of my mana and stamina that my sleep had been more like a coma. My retainers had all been deathly anxious, but Ferdinand, who had told them how much potion to give me in the first place, had assured them that I would wake up in 2 or 3 days. And what is Ferdinand doing now, I asked. I doubt he saw my slumber as an opportunity to rest. A lot could change in 2 days. No way was he still waiting around at Ahrensbach. Of course he did! Lenore nodded, indicating that my assumption was correct. He went to Ehrenfest leading a group of Dunkelfelder knights. Of course he did! So he left me behind! I asked for emphasis. He told me to drink the potion if I wanted to join him, which it seemed a little cruel that he'd rushed off without me. It wasn't easy drinking twice my usual dose. To be more precise, Dunkelfelder's knights became too rowdy to be kept in the castle, Lenore explained. Lord Ferdinand had no choice but to leave with them, of course. In the heat of battle, the knights followed their commander's orders to the letter, but their composure quickly faded when they didn't have anything to do. During my absence, they had apparently tried to hold more feasts and challenge Ahrensbach's already busy knights to dinner under the guise of training for the next battle. Ferdinand had taken them to Ehrenfest to put a stop to their troublemaking. Hold on a moment, I said. Does that mean Ferdinand didn't have any time to recover? He spent an entire day in his hidden room, so I assume he got some rest, Lenore said, then asked me to step out of my hidey so that she could clothe me. I did as instructed and was promptly seated in front of a mirror. I am here to help dress you, said the apprentice attendant. You may call me Pharisee. Oh, that's Letizia's attendant, okay. You were rescued alongside Lady Letizia, were you not, I asked. Were you both able to get some rest? Yes, she replied with a gentle smile. Lady Letizia is doing especially well. I thank you ever so much for saving her. Pharisee continued to thank me while preparing to wash my face. First I sent Letizia sweets to help her through the grueling education Ferdinand was giving her. Then I rescued her from one of Lanzanoff's ships, having elected to treat her not as a member of a rebellious duchy, but as a victim and a prisoner. To get more people to accept me as the new Ab Ahrensbach, the nobles targeted by Lanzanov were now being made to mingle with those Hartmann and Clarissa had successfully brainwashed. Ferdinand gave the order, but that shouldn't detract from how hard Letizia has been working. Lord Ferdinand told us you would be asleep for 3 days or so, but we are still worried, Pharisee continued. Lady Letizia in particular was terribly frightened that you would not wake up at all. Would you care to have your next meal with her and Lady Hannelore to ease their concerns? I turned to look at Lenore. Given the circumstances, I wanted to know whether it was acceptable for me to agree. She gave a small nod. Then we shall make the necessary arrangements, Pharisee said. She then sent an ordonnance out of the room, then swapped out the tools she'd used to wash my hair for a brush and started arranging my tresses into braids. You truly are blessed by the god of darkness, like Messinor, the goddess of wisdom. You have hair as dark and as captivating as the night sky. I see these 2 retainers of yours were telling the truth. Somebody please stop them. They're only doing as Ferdinand instructed, but still, please. She continued, there have been so passionate in teaching our nobles how wonderful you are and warning them how closely our situation resembles that of history's Eisenreach. Our nobles are shaking with trepidation as we await the royal family's judgment. Ahrensbach had faced a severe purge as a result of the recent civil war, so it was terrifying to imagine what would come of a rebellion with a foreign power. Hartmann and Clarissa had done an excellent job of stirring up a fear among the nobles. I'm sure they've exaggerated a bit, but the nobles really should be worried, like seriously. You truly are the avatar of Messinor, Lady Rosemont, a savior come to Ahrensbach in its time of need, returned to us after all this time to receive the Book of Wisdom and deliver the Grutschite to the royal family. Are you not here to rule as one chosen by the gods and purge the goddess of chaos's influence from Ahrensbach? What? What the heck is going on? Only one person could have done something like this. Curse you, Ferdinand! As much as I wanted to give him a piece of my mind, he wasn't here anymore. I also wanted to cradle my head, but I couldn't wait while Pharisee was doing my hair. The most I could do was let out a quiet groan. As I stared in the mirror, I noticed that Pharisee was wearing a light violet cape over her work clothes. It was marked with a large X, drawn in blue and yellow lines, the purpose of which was unknown to me. Pharisee, do Ahrensbach attendants normally wear capes when working, I asked? Yours seems to be getting in your way. No, but there are special circumstances. Those whom Lord Ferdinand deemed not to have any malice toward you or Ehrenfest were given these marked capes to wear. Anyone seen without one is captured on sight and detained until they have been judged as well. To my surprise, Ferdinand formed a shield over Leslie while I was asleep and checked the malice of the Ahrensbach nobles. I sure hope they have a way of knowing if anyone was just hostile to grunts. Once I was dressed and presentable, my retainers flooded into the room. They had been over so worried as a result of my sudden prolonged slumber. Cornelius peered at my face and triple-checked that I was safe, while Matthias and Lorenz just slumped over in relief. I am fully recovered, I assured them all. How are things in Ehrenfest? As much as I would rather you continue to rest, I am just as worried about the situation back home, Cornelia said. If we want to go, I won't stop you. I smiled and nodded. We need to check on our home duchy and tell Sylvester how we're faring. Lady Rosemine, Lorenz interjected. Lord Ferdinand said that if you insist on going to Ehrenfest, you should confirm his location with an ordinance before using the teleporter. Perhaps to make up for leaving me behind, Ferdinand was permitting me to exercise my authority as an Ob and use the duchy's teleporter to catch up with him. That was good to know. An ordinance arrived earlier informing us that Lord Ferdinand and the Dunkelfelder Knights were about to reach Seitzen, where the border gate is located. They will consult the guards there and spend the afternoon resting before continuing into Ehrenfest. Then I shall use the teleporter to reach the border gate first, I said. Please don't, Matthias shouted in response. That's much too dangerous. At my knight's frantic encouragement, I sent an ordinance to Ferdinand telling him that I'd woken up and that I intended to activate the teleporter to the border gate. He replied that he would contact me when he arrived and I shouldn't use the teleporter before then. It wasn't much I could do but sit and wait. Having observed the ordinance exchange, Cornelius approached somewhat hesitantly. Rosamund, are you planning on stay here as Ob Ahrensbach? That's what the rumors and even Lord Ferdinand claim. Yes. Indeed, I said, if possible, I would like to create my own library city. What? Cornelius stared at me, positively bewildered. That's your reason for staying here? Not to rule Ahrensbach with a just hand? Well, she could do that too. She's not saying she can't do that too, you know. Hello? She can do more than one thing in her time here. I nodded. The library city is my foremost desire, but everything will depend on our negotiations with the royal family. As it stands, few things in my life have gone as I wished. My dream of making books with Lutz while supplying mana as an apprentice Blue Shrine Maiden had been crushed by my adoption into the Archducal family, and my wish to spend the time until my 10th birthday with my lower city family had been cast aside by Count Bindelwald. We also put aside 2 years for my education, which had ultimately been devoured by my time in the Jarif. I could still remember waking up to find that everyone had grown up without me. And now that I'd finally caught up with them, I was receiving all manner of strange looks. But of course, the list of unfortunate twists didn't end there. I'd never wanted Ferdinand to move to Ahrensbach, and when I prayed that he would at least stay safe, he had nearly died in an attempt on his life. I'd also wanted to stay in Ehrenfest, but there wasn't a place for me there anymore. By settling into the position of Ob Ahrensbach, I should be able to lead the duchy, as Ferdinand suggested, I said, but as it stands, with my adoption into the royal family looming over me, I do not expect my wish to come true. Rosemine? Druidishite or no, do you really expect the royal family to let me go so easily? Ruling as Ob Ahrensbach is like a dream within a dream. I was glad that Ferdinand had suggested it, and I wanted it to come true, but I sincerely doubted it would. I see. Cornelius rested a hand on my head with a conflicted expression. How unusually realistic of you. Following my conversation with my retainers, I was taken to the dining hall. I would technically be eating breakfast while the others ate lunch. Letizia, Hannelore, and the retainers were awaiting me inside. How do you feel, Lady Rosamund? Hannelore asked. As good as can be. We have prepared some healthy dishes for everyone, Letizia said. I thank you ever so much. Letizia and her retainers were all wearing capes adorned with blue and yellow crosses. I hadn't thought much of it when they'd just been Pharisee, but now it was abundantly clear what the marks represented. Subjugation by Ehrenfest and Dunkelfelder. This mark is also being worn by the knights Lord Ferdinand is leading to keep them from capturing or attacking each other by mistake, Letizia said. With a smile as if she had read my mind, it is purely for distinguishing friend from foe. Good idea. As I enjoyed some spicy and very flavorful soup, Hannelore told me what I'd missed while I was asleep. Our knights finished their search of the lawns of estate, and as Lady Letizia said, there was a door within that could be opened only by the Ob. Lord Ferdinand said it was connected to a villa for hosting the Lonsdorff princesses. The estate had since been sealed off. Now that I was Ob Ahrensbach, those who had gone through the door wouldn't be able to return without any approval. Ha ha! Hannelore continued. The teleportation circle in the Royal Academy, and the door between the central building and the dormitory requires both the Ob's mana and registration brooches. Lady Deadlinda's group should not be able to return by teleporter. Ha ha! Ha ha! That's what they get for assuming that nothing's going to go against them. Ha ha! I thank you ever so much, Lady Hannelore. Think nothing of it. I would expect nothing less from Dunkelfelder's knights. Considering how much they ate and drank, I am more concerned about the burden on Lord Ferdinand, who had so little time to rest. The knights had apparently been champing at the bit to help Ferdinand while he was sick, but not one of them had suggested that he take some time to rest. And that's the problem with Dunkelfelderians! As we speak, Ahrensbach's scholars are performing the rote task of pressing the numerous face stones we retrieved against registration medals to determine whom they belong to. Letizia cast her eyes down. Lord Ferdinand said the casualties were minimal, but there was still a great many. I wasn't sure how best to console her. If Ferdinand said they were minimal, then this really must have been the best outcome. You warned Stroll of the danger, did you not? Then he did as you instructed and protected the nobles. It was so gracious of you to order him to prioritize serving the others when you were in Lonsnoff's clutches. But, Lady Rosemine, I pressed a finger against my lips, urging the teary-eyed Letizia not to say another word. She had promised Ferdinand that she would act as though nothing had happened. We can discuss the details of your situation when we reunite with Ferdinand, I said. I must return to Ehrenfest after we've eaten, so I ask that you to be patient. Letizia nodded, one hand clamped firmly over her mouth. Meanwhile, Handler blinked at me in confusion. Lady Rosemine, what if the Foundation here, as the obvious your duty to protect it? That you would abandon your treasure partway through the match to travel to Ehrenfest is unthinkable. I couldn't help but chuckle. Lady Handler, if someone wishes to steal Ahrensbach's Foundation, they are welcome to it. But I cannot think of anyone who would want to claim a duchy mid-rebellion without the royal family's authority. If anyone was foolish enough to make such a bold move, I wouldn't get in their way. They would need to take on the standard duties of an ob and all the work Ferdinand was doing for the duchy's sake. And even if someone were to take it, I continued, my life would not be at risk. Those who steal a foundation customarily destroy the medals of the archducal family they have supplanted, but my medal is still in Ehrenfest. Not to mention, I know how to reach Ahrensbach's Foundation. If for some reason I need it back, I can always just steal it again. I doubt anyone will defeat me in a test of mana. Handler paused and thought before giggling. That certainly is true. Then she announced that she would come with me to Ehrenfest. Wait, really? I asked. Were you not told to stay here for the sake of your safety? Not quite. Lord Ferdinand instructed me to guard you, our team's greatest treasure, for the remainder of the match. Once we'd eaten, I was taken to another room to draw a teleporter large enough for us all to travel together. Ferdinand had already decided who would accompany me in the event that I decided to rush to Ehrenfest, my retainers, Handler squad, and 5 Ahrensbach knights. They were all gathered and ready. As I got to work on the circle, one of the knights stepped forward and said, I cannot put into words how fortunate I am to have been blessed with an opportunity to guard the avatar of Mestanora. We are grateful to no end that you are here, heading into battle to save our compatriots. Praise be to the gods, glory be to Lady Rosemine. Eep! Hearing someone praise me as though I were equal to the gods made me step back on instinct. It was a pretty tame reaction, all things considered, especially when I caught Hartmut nodding his approval. How had Ahrensbach's nobles changed so drastically in only 2 days? You can blame Hartmut and Clarissa for that one. Our preparations are made, so we shall depart for Seitzen as soon as we hear back from Lord Ferdinand, Lorenz announced with a smile before sending an ordinance to the man in question. Was he pretending not to notice my displeasure, or was this all part of some devious plan? Our response arrived in short order. Teleport to Bindewald, not Seitzen. It has come to our attention that a flood of knights crossed its border into Ehrenfest last night. We have just entered the province ourselves, and its summer estate should soon come into view. I would rather we rendezvous first, and then proceed into Ehrenfest together. Hurry. I gazed around at the sea of tense faces. Everyone put your hands on the circle and chaining your mana into it. They all did as instructed and joined me in pouring mana into the teleporter. As light and darkness swirled around us, I produced my staff and tapped it against the circle. Then Lussel, Bindewald. Whoop whoop. Oh, we're gonna have to do this. But that's gonna have to wait. I'll see y'all on the next one.